lucid dreaming explained, the body is the temple, as is often said, but it's more than that. The body is a line. There's a line between you and the external world, internal and external, and you can draw a line there and pay very close attention to internal rather than external. And that is required for lucid dreaming, of course, because lucid dreaming is the highest exploration possible of internality. And so what you must do is leave behind the idea that you need to perceive the external world to feel grounded in your own who you are, and instead pay very close attention to not the cost of money, not the cost of food even, though food is an internal thing that goes inside of you, it's important, but rather pay the cost, attentive, blinking, movements of your head, words, the way that a word vibrates the head and causes tension in the head, even when just speaking a word. Even a word has a cost, especially if yelled. What I mean by a cost is like eating the apple. The pleasure causes pain by comparison. Everything's compared. So good equals bad. So even a blink is biting from the apple of goodness, because a blink is pleasant. An itch is biting from the apple. Everything is minute movements of the finger, lifting a finger. Lifting one finger. You don't know how you do it. The willpower of that has a cost, because you're using the life and you will need to fall asleep because you've lifted a finger too many times in too many ways, and you think the big ways that you lift a finger, the ways you use your whole fist, your hand, you think that's a bigger deal. It's not. The bigger deal is lifting a finger, a toe. Like when you're in sleep paralysis and you can only move like your eyebrows or your toe or just like this, your finger, in sleep paralysis when it's like that. So just always feel like you're in sleep paralysis in a certain sense. You're always paralyzed in a certain sense anyway, because you're always stuck and paralyzed within your avatar. So realize and recognize the profundity of examining closely, paying attention all the time, fixating your awareness on this avatar rather than the environment which it inhabits, because the environment which it inhabits is a place that you'd like to manipulate. So why are you paying attention to the place you want to manipulate rather than the avatar that you are using to manipulate this place? You should pay attention to the tool that you're using to manipulate the place. And the best way to manipulate the place is to go so far in that you literally fall asleep, or the better way to describe falling asleep is you temporarily die and you enter into a world when you die that is so alive that you have more control, because you have surrendered more deeply to the fact that you are just your surroundings. When you slip into a dream from your external working life where you are more attached to your friends, your family, weed, whatever, food, but most of all your identity and consistency of who you think you are, your thoughts forming that. When you slip into the internality of the dream, you supersede the need to reflect upon that externality, to build who you are, constantly growing, constantly as reflection of nostalgia, building on what you were. You can always ask the subconscious for questions as God during your waking life. You're always dreaming. It's just you're attached to shit, so you need to go through this cycle. You need to brainwash yourself into thinking that you're going into this dream state that's different than the waking state in order to not feel so attached to your identity, because you feel like your identity right now, Alvin, I'm talking to you, you feel like it's like across time, space. You feel like it's not. You feel like it's a consistent thing you need to maintain and stuff. And you like that. It's nice to have a consistent dream with others that's like more grounded, but it's also nice to recognize the realness, the aliveness of the internality at night, the dreams. awareness. You must pay attention to the cost of a head movement, the cost of everything. And this is very much relevant, especially when you are in the process of dying and falling asleep and everything. This is why when you die, if you accept Christ as your Savior right before you die, it's fine. Because every movement is very important in the process of dying. It doesn't matter even how you live your life prior, because what's important is the small things, the lifting of the finger, the blinking, the breath, the fucking breath, okay? The breath. I'll leave it at that. You're welcome. That's how to lucid dream and play God for a little while, because you don't really want to be God. You want to have a little consistent, weak, small impersonation. Because when you get so high that you're always high as shit, you need to be low. So, but when you're low, you desire to be high. The grass is always greener, so you've got to lucid dream sometimes. That's really a big answer to how to be more satisfied for me at this time in my life. Because I love dreaming. I daydream all the time. That's where I get most of my satisfaction from in life, is daydreaming. So it makes sense also to take more purposeful control over my night dreams and let them guide me. But it's the key to maintaining the lucid dream also, which is very important when you finally slip into it, by paying attention to your imagination's small movements. After you pay attention to the small movements of your body and all the little things that I mentioned, you will then need to maintain the dream by not controlling it too much. Even though you can control it, the more advanced you are at not controlling it, at surrendering to the process of dreaming happening, you can then just simply control the dream by letting go of control, because, like your mother said, you simply let it flow and go. And you do not get what you want by like reaching out for it with your finger, your hand, like reaching a hand to God, like the iconic painting, which is like an even bigger expression of lifting a finger for heaven, which I shall not do. For I am you, and so we are together. And what that means, really, that we're together, is that neither of us are better than the other. So we can both do this. It just requires the yin and the yang cooperating, and you need to be in a flow state, slipping from the waking state to the dream. You need to just let the small things occur. Let it happen. Let the blinking, the twitching of the finger. If you raise a finger to get into heaven, that's fine. Because that's not really who you are. It's just happening. It's just a process of transition. You can just let anything happen that happens and guide you wherever it guides you. And then once you're there, you will naturally have desires which will arise within you to motivate you to naturally move in the direction of getting what you want. You don't need to force that. You don't need to think to yourself, what do I want to do? And make it happen in the dream. It's going to happen. What you want will happen anyway. You just need to be the person who would want that. Yeah. You don't need to reach for what you want. Simply embody being the person who would want that just because of who you are. And then it'll come to you in your waking life, but it'll take longer in the waking life, and you will need to use more of your willpower, because you've given more of your power away to others to play more of a game. But in the dream, you're more brainwashed into thinking that the state you're in is that you are the external. You are the subconscious, because you've just experienced transitioning from waking to dream, pretty much. So that's how that works. Okay.